Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Military Barbarism 101. In fact, it is Libertycon 2017's presentation on training for. Quick show of hands. Ex-Army? Marines no longer subject to revenue. Air Force? Navy? Okay, pretty good group. If you're from a service other than Army or Marines, let me know when we're done how much this applies to your memories of service. Whether you think it works. Okay, I know it works with ground combat, but I'm curious about air and Navy. Yes, helicopter pilots do count.
I know.
All right, that's our agenda. Trigger warnings and caveats. It's very important. This is a trigger. I warn you, do not place your finger on the trigger until ready to fire. That's a triggerly puff. She has been triggered. Do not act like her lest you be harpooned and processed for oil and ivory or demonic forces possess you. Okay, caveat number one. This is me. All right, this is the way I did business in the Army. I was a really good trainer. All right. If you did it like me, you'd be a really good trainer too. It's non-doctrinal, right? Because the Army's got really, really bad about training. As a matter of fact, I understand now that there's more mandatory training, most of it absolutely nonsensical bullshit, than there are hours in the year to accomplish that training. Yep. And so a lot of this is anti-doctrinal. Wait till you get to say, oh yeah, I'm way anti-doctrinal on that. But it works for me. All right, caveat number two. We've got at least one military woman here. I didn't pay close attention to anything below hands I had raised. I'm not going to tell you this applies to women. I will tell you that I don't think women are going to be effective combatants on battlefield until they're in their own units, trained by men, preferably gay, so they don't get hit on all the time. And then figure out how to do it for themselves because they're different. Okay? Though they understand us really, really well. We don't understand them. Anybody dispute that? Anybody here, any males here think they really understand women? What?
We don't understand you.
I don't believe that. I know Yolanda understands.
You're better at it than we are.
I don't think men and women integrated at the small unit level ever formed successful combat. Every place I know of where it's been tried has been a failure. At ground combat, ground.
Sure. I do still have a question though.
Okay, shoot.
Could you, just for the purpose of clarification, specifically what are you talking about when you say small unit level?
Company below.
Company level. Okay, thank you.
Maybe not battalion. And the reason for that is field grade officers like me, leading battalions, are at that horrible age, you know, when they've only got so many years left to speak of, or not to speak of. Okay, I might change my mind about any of this, but it's not really likely that I will. Some of this is personal stories I think are on point. If you're a Baines barfly, you'll have heard a lot of these stories. If you've read some of my books and you recognize these stories in the books, then you'll know, yeah, I was being honest when I heard. It's one over the world. Unless you've got a lot of experience, it's not going to be everything you need, but it'll help. These are some definitions of military training I pulled up. Go ahead and we'll go through these. See this? Their careers. Okay, now wait a minute. We're training them for their careers, or we're training them to fight when it's modern battlefield? These days it's hard to say. I think they're supposed to be trained to fight when it's modern battlefield. To become a member of the military. Well, to become a member, we're talking only about basic training in AIT. Or such other names as, say, the Navy may have for their more advanced training. In their respective, this is interesting, but it's still focused on individuals who, do not really win wars. Again, still focused on individuals. This is getting closer. It's covering some aspects of the collective. On the other hand, I say, nah. Okay, that's my definition. Had a chance to read it. By the way, this is being recorded. If you don't want your face seen while you're in the this meeting of crypto fascists. Don't turn around and face the cameras. That's what I thought. And since we're all friends here,
Hey, we're not that friendly.
this is going to get turned into a video. We'll put it on YouTube. So you don't have to take notes unless you want to remember something to ask a question. Pay attention to what I'm saying, pay attention to what it says. If you want to check back, it'll be there. That's 5 functions of military training. It's not doctrinal, it's me. But I developed these probably 25 years or so ago. I was looking for a fight on them from people who were also in the business of training people to fight and win on the battlefield. And we could quibble about the nomenclature, but the actual functional areas of training, the functions of training, I don't think can anybody, I'm willing to defend it, can anybody dispute it? Wimps.
Now, on number 5, you talk about that testing of doctrine and equipment. Do you do that with all troops, or do you do testing with specific troops?
Great question. You do it with all troops. Because the more you use it, the more you find the flaws in it. Okay. This isn't actually, when you're testing doctrine and equipment, you're not actually training. It's a function of the training that you're doing. Because you're breaking things, you're failing, and figuring out why. And that only happens when you do an awful lot of training on the subject at hand in the field under realistic combat conditions.
But we know that at Natick in the 80s, they were using the same troops over and over again to test the same things, and they began to get results that would please the master so that they didn't get rotated out of that job.
Yeah, right. Natick does lots of stupid things. This is a little bit of a digression, but that's okay. We have time for a little bit of digression. Combat rations. Every time Natick comes up with a new combat ration, they distribute it to the troops, and the troops eat it, and this is ambrosia. This is better than sex. This is the best thing that has ever been. You know why? Because the troops are so sick of eating the same previous 12 menus that dog shit would be an improvement. This is how you get crap like chicken a la king. Okay? And that's an aspect of testing and doctrine equipment. You make them eat the rations until they're sick of them, and you find out which one's bad. And you do it at 3 levels. Individual, collective, team. Leader tasks are also individual tasks, but they're different. They're not really skill tasks. They're, well,
Mental process.
well, they're mental processes, but they're wait a minute, well, yeah, bearing courage, decisiveness, dependability, endurance, enthusiasm. We'll get into that. Okay. Okay. So you can't add these things together, any of them. They multiply. Troops with absolutely no skills can be thoroughly conditioned, properly developed, selected perfectly, have wonderful doctrine equipment, they're still totally worthless. Okay? Excellent, perfectly trained individuals, great leaders who are utterly incapable of working together to perform a collective task, are again, worthless. Right?
Every joint exercise I've ever been on. That sounds like every joint exercise I've ever done.
Oh, I could wax through okay, skill training. It's kind of obvious, you know. Stuff you're doing, shooting, moving, communicating, preparing, tactical managing. But form clean, there are tens of thousands of them. Okay? And that's okay. Because every soldier has at most about 1,000. Which is a lot, really. Most of them will not be able to perform all the tasks, but in a given unit, you'll find somebody who can do any task. It's easy, even though there are so many of them. It's easy because you can measure them. Right? You know what you're doing. You know when you've done it well enough. You know when it's time to move on to the next one. When you measure them, you can prioritize what's important. What is it? What to do next week? What to do right now? What is, we can get in a couple months, maybe, because it doesn't really matter that much. And it's easy because they're learning by doing. But because they're measurable, civilian experts will tend to fix it on it, and I've got a particularly good one for that. Who's familiar with Army Ranger School as a general phenomenon? Okay. Unbelievably shitty experience. Okay, it's not as hard as it used to be. Everybody says that, but it really is true. It's not quite as hard as it used to be. But you know, by way of example, my class averaged an hour and a half sleep for 2 months, nightly. I lost 30 pounds, which on me now would be a drop in the bucket. But at the time, I only weighed about 150, and I went down to about 120. I looked like, Jesus, with this schnoz, I looked like somebody from concentration camp. Hip bones sticking out and everything. Okay? You couldn't, civilian experts came in, MDs I think were my greatest, and insisted that this was all very bad, that the sleep deprivation, the starvation meant the troops weren't learning the skills. Well, Ranger School wasn't about skills. It was about character development, it was about mental toughening, it was about learning the kind of skill you really can't measure. How do you measure the skill of troop leading procedures? How do you measure preparing an operations order? You don't, you know, except through eventual success. Now, what they, again, with the stupid ass civilian experts missed, I've gotten this from a couple of different sources that didn't know each other, so I'm fine to believe that it's true. Allegedly in Vietnam, a study was done. And it determined that companies and platoons led by Ranger School graduates were approximately, they suffered about half the casualties on average as units that were not, and they killed about twice as many VC and MBA. I would suggest to you that's a really, really good reason. They were doing something right, even if an MD couldn't figure out what it was, and he had no business being asked. Anyway. There's complications. Okay? It's supposed to be a sergeant's job. Anybody familiar with, say, the history of the Army? I don't think the Marines avoided some of it, but they didn't avoid all of it. After World War II? There we are. We're going down to 10 divisions, about. I don't think we actually had below 10 divisions. That weren't very good. Facing several hundred Russian divisions on the other side of the inter-German border in Czechoslovakia. And the problem was that we felt we should keep a great many more officers on hand than we really needed so that we could mobilize a large army again very quickly. I personally think that's kind of bullshit. There's one principle of organization that all the armed forces follow to a T, and this is maintenance of the maximum feasible number of flag officers. And every principle of organization falls before this one. Okay? But for whatever reason, we kept a whole bunch of officers on. Well, that had a spillover effect. Command tours got short. Where you could have expected at one time, I mean, I was lucky, I got like 5 years, but where you could have at one time expected, where you could have expected at one time to command for a company for maybe 2.5, 3 years. No, it went down to about a year, maybe. Right? Not always even that long. What can you do in a year? Put on a show. And you certainly don't want those reprobate NCOs interfering with you, standing between you and a perfect OER. Right? So officers took the responsibility on themselves, and they grew with the NCO Corps, who've never recovered from it. Add in the double whammy of the incredibly idiotic and recently resurrected Atomic Division, and we screwed the NCO Corps hard. They know how to train their troops. They don't actually know to do it. So we do things, officers do things like, well, by the way, when I say officers in this case, I don't mean me. I'll tell you how I did it. They would do round robins, where, say, your 9 squad leaders, or at that time, 16 non-platoon leader, platoon sergeant, or non-platoon leader, tank commanders, would have stations. And the troops would, under a junior leader, the troops would wander from station to station and get tested or trained on a given thing. Well, there are a lot of legitimate bases for leadership, and it's a legitimate basis of leadership if it works. There was a historian in the Middle Ages who wrote that men don't, soldiers don't like being in command of one who is of noble birth. I'm sure it was true for his time. But what it really is any man needs an excuse to obey. Right? He doesn't want to do it because it's kind of demeaning. Right? Now the excuse can be noble birth. As long as that's an excuse, everybody accepts you're supposed to obey the Baron's orders, the Duke's orders, the Earl's orders. It works just fine. I mean, you don't get a decent army like the British Army unless they accept, to some extent, they're actually quite good, unless they accept that birth is, a legitimate right to command. There's other bases of it. is one, demonstrated courage is one. Knowledge is one. Knowledge is power. And when you do the round robin and you don't have your NCOs training their own troops, they're not showing any knowledge. They don't have a whole hell of a lot of power. Okay, parable of the training schedule. That's how I fix this. When I was a young lieutenant, I promised my first company commander that when I took over company myself, I would do nothing for 6 weeks. I would just watch, take notes, ask questions, see, analyze, and figure out what actually needed to be done. And so at the end of 6 weeks, and by the way, my company, when I took it over, was unusually a relatively good company, particularly for Fort Stewart, that particular place in time. So for 6 weeks, I watched, troops sleep in the barracks. I watched the sergeants lose control of their troops during mandatory NCO company. I was, in general, kind of unimpressed about the NCOs training their own troops. They weren't. So I called the boys in, my platoon leaders, platoon sergeants, and my squad leaders, into my office. And besides gassing them with my cigarette smoke, which, by the way, I've given up, you can't tell, I said, I've been in the Army at this point in time, guys, for about 10 years, 9.5 years. In all that time, I can't count the number of occasions where I've seen some company commander say, I'm tired of this screwing off in the barracks. We're going to account for every minute. We're going to tighten up the training schedule. We're going to, it's all bullshit, it never worked. Okay, or it worked for 10 days, maybe, until the next crisis came along, and then it was promptly forgotten. So here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to tighten the training schedule. I'm going to loosen it. Nothing is going to go on the training schedule that isn't, I'm not directly involved in. What that means is there's going to suddenly be a lot of empty blocks in the training schedule. Now, look at the training schedule. Okay, I haven't taken a look at it. You notice where it used to say opportunity training. It doesn't say that anymore, right? What does it say now? It says mandatory opportunity training. That means is you're going to do these things, and I'm going to test Friday night, and if you don't pass, I'm going to test like 2 men per squad on these particular tasks, and if you don't pass, we're going to stay here until every man in your squad does. Flip it over back over. You notice where it used to say sergeant's time? Yeah, it doesn't say that anymore. Why? Because all the time I have taken is sergeant's time. They didn't believe me the first week. I don't know why, So I kept the whole freaking company until sometime after midnight. The next week, 2 of them believed me. 2 of the 9 squad leaders believed me. Everybody else I kept till about 11:30 Friday night. And the next week it was like 5 squads. It took about 6 weeks before they really believed me, and it was happening. And in fact, it was getting to the point of what one of my squad leaders told me. That is, one of his troops had gone up to him and said, literally, "Forsooth, Sergeant, I'm in desperate need of getting laid, and if you don't teach me this crap, the motherfucking CO is going to keep us here until midnight. So teach me, would you?" Now, I did that for another 6 weeks. Yeah, good, good.
Also at that same time, I'm assuming early 80s.
This was 86, I think, early 86.
So the same period, doing the same job. We were actually told as officers to train the troops because you couldn't trust the sergeants to train.
Well, no, you can't trust them to train. You can trust that they know how to do it. But you've got to make an extra step to get rid of 50 years of conditioning of not doing it on their own initiative.
Right.
Okay, it's a different issue. Now, okay, so for like 6 weeks more, I kept it up. I called them back in for another prayer meeting, and I said, okay, this works so far. From now on, you're going to pick your tasks, and we're still going to spot check. But, it won't be quite as full as it has been the last 3 months. And they did. That worked pretty well, too. And this is, the Army used to do, and some of the guys here who were in at the time may remember, it had something called the hands-on skill qualification. There was 26 tasks that had to be done at more or less anal retentive levels of perfection, ridiculous levels of perfection. My battalion, we were doing those. Probably May or so, it was 86, not a good list for long. And The rest of the town shut down for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to get ready for it. Went to the field, we did some deliberate attack live fires, we did some ambushes, did some recon patrols, you know, we did that kind of thing. Came in the night before we were supposed to take the test. And I said, boys, knock the mud off your boots, oil down your weapons, turn them in, see you out here in the morning, goodbye. When the smoke cleared, the best company was mine. All 9 lieutenant to come by company headquarters, top squads were mine. All 3 best platoons were mine. I think there were only 5 guys in the company that didn't max it. And the funny thing, the next year I paid even less attention.